Okay, here's a thought. What if spiritual wisdom, like really deep stuff from Jewish mysticism,
Hmm.
what if you could explain that using, well, science, like the laws of electricity? It's kind of a wild idea, right? Bridging these seemingly totally separate worlds.
It really is. But that's exactly what we're doing in this deep dive. We're looking at this fascinating article by Rabbi Shlomo Ezagui. It's called Unified Currents, Torah, Tzedakah, and Mitzvah's Electric Parallel. You can find it on the Times of Israel blog.
Unified currents. I like that. So the mission here is to unpack how these ancient spiritual ideas actually line up with, well, electrical currents.
Precisely. It's about seeing how potential transforms into reality. And you find this amazing three-tiered system showing up in both. It's quite illuminating.
Okay, so what's the core idea tying it all together?
Well, it starts with this foundational concept. God looked into the Torah, the divine wisdom, to create the universe. So everything that exists gets its input, its essence, from the Torah.
Right, and that sets up the analogy we're exploring.
Exactly. Torah, Tzedakah, and Mitzvah on the one side. Yeah.
And volts, amperes, and watts on the other. Okay, I'm intrigued. We're going to get into it.
Great. So let's start with Torah.
Okay, Torah. In Jewish mysticism, how is it described? It's big, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's seen as the ultimate source, the highest divine energy, the most powerful, all-encompassing light. The mystics actually have a term for it. Makif harachak.
Makif harachak.
Yeah.
Distant aura.
Yeah, distant aura. Think of it as this vast divine influence that surrounds everything. It's so immense you can't really contain it directly, but it's the foundation. And it's said to have this ability to protect and save people connected to it, in any situation.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So how does that connect to electricity?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. It parallels voltage almost perfectly.
Voltage, like the power outlet number?
Sort of. Think of voltage as the electrical pressure, like water pressure in a pipe. It's the force that pushes the electrons, the potential to make things happen. High voltage means more push is available.
Ah, okay, so it's not the flow itself, but the potential for flow, the overall force.
Exactly. Like the Torah, voltage is fundamental. It's the source potential. It sets the stage for everything else in the circuit. It's not narrow. It's the broad foundation.
Okay, that makes sense. Torah is the vast potential. Voltage is the driving pressure. But if the Torah is this distant, immense thing, how do we actually use it for something specific? How do we tap in?
Good question. The source gives the Psalms as a great example.
The Psalms. How so?
Well, they're powerful because they kind of embody both things. They have the quality of Torah, that huge spiritual potential, and they have the specific focus of the mitzvah of prayer.
So it's like a bridge.
Exactly. Prayer through Psalms lets you consciously draw on that vast, all-encompassing divine energy for a very specific need or blessing. You're channeling the potential.
Okay, channeling. That sounds like the next step. So we have this huge potential, the Torah, the voltage. How do we start directing it?
Right. That brings us to Tzedakah, which is usually translated as charity or righteousness.
Tzedakah. How does that fit into the mystical picture?
It's described differently, not the distant aura, like Torah, but a close aura. Still a makif, an encompassing force, but closer.
Closer, meaning more accessible.
Yeah, more directly interacting with our world, still a general spiritual influence, but not quite as vast and, well, distant as the Torah itself. It's more on our level, you could say.
Okay, a closer, more focused, encompassing energy. How does that relate to electricity?
Well, if Torah is voltage, the pressure, then Tzedakah is like amperage. Amps.
Amps. What do amps measure again?
Amps measure the flow, the actual current. Think back to the water pipe. Amps are like the volume of water flowing through it per second.
Got it. Voltage is the pressure pushing. Amps are the amount actually flowing.
Exactly. So Tzedakah, in this analogy, is like the amperes. It measures the flow rate of that spiritual energy. It channels the general potential from the Torah into a more specific directed stream. It's making things move.
Okay, this is clicking. And the source mentioned something practical about this, right?
That-
About giving tzedakah before doing a mitzvah.
Yes, absolutely. The advice is always to give Tzedakah first.
Why is that? How does that current building work?
Because spiritually, the energy of Tzedakah facilitates the mitzvah that comes after it. It's like preparing the pathway. You're increasing the flow, the amperage. So the specific action, the mitzvah, can be more effective, more powerful.
So it's like making sure there's enough current flowing before you plug something in.
That's a great way to put it. It ensures the energy is readily available and flowing strongly for the specific task. It's quite strategic, really.
Okay, so we have the potential Torah volts and the channeled flow, tzedakah amps. what's the final piece? How does this actually do something tangible?
That brings us to the mitzvah itself.
Yeah.
The individual commandment, the specific good deed.
The action?
Right. The mitzvah is the concrete expression. It's where that divine potential and flow turn into a specific, tangible impact in the world. It's the result.
Can you give that mezuzah example again? How does that specific mitzvah show this impact?
Sure. A mezuzah, the scroll placed on the doorpost. Performing that specific mitzvah, according to the source, it actually generates protection for the people living in that house. It's not just symbolic. It's seen as creating a real, tangible effect, a specific outcome.
Okay, a direct, measurable result from the action. So
Yeah.
connecting back to electricity, potential volts, flow, amps.
Yeah.
What's the result?
The result in electricity is measured in watts.
Watts, right, like on a light bulb.
Exactly. Watts measure the actual work being done. Lighting the bulb, heating an element, powering your phone. It's the power consumed or produced. And here's the key electrical formula. Watts are the product of volts multiplied by amps. W equals VXA.
Ah, so you need both the pressure and the flow to get the actual work done.
Precisely. And this is where the analogy really becomes powerful. The effectiveness, the power of a mitzvah is the result, the outcome that comes from the general potential of the Torah, the volts, amplified by the focus flow of Tzedakah, the amps, realized through the specific action of the mitzvah itself, producing the watts.
Wow. Okay, so just doing the mitzvah alone isn't the whole picture.
Well, it's good, but its impact is magnified. You need both the overarching force, the potential, and the channeling flow to achieve real practical work and benefit. Just like a device needs both voltage and current supplied to actually function and do its job.
So this interaction then between Torah, Tzedakah, and mitzvah, or volts, amps, and watts, is absolutely crucial in both systems.
It's vital. Giving tzedakah before the mitzvah isn't just a nice gesture. It's like ensuring the amperage is there to work with the voltage of Torah, making the mitzvah, the wattage, much more potent.
It's about intelligently managing the whole circuit, the whole spiritual process.
Exactly. It's moving from potential to flow to tangible impact.
So recapping this parallel isn't just like a neat trick or a clever metaphor.
No, the source suggests it's pointing to something deeper, a kind of universal principle.
A principle for how potential becomes reality.
Yes. Moving from this huge, all-encompassing source, then channeling it through a specific flow, and finally directing it into a concrete act or result. And this pattern seems to echo across different levels of existence, the seen and the unseen.
Which really brings home that conclusion you mentioned earlier. The spiritual and the scientific might just be two different languages describing the same underlying reality.
It certainly makes you think that way. And it reminds me of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman of Liadi, the founder of Chabad. He explained that the laws of nature aren't in conflict with the Torah at all. They are actually like a garment or an expression of divine wisdom itself.
A garment for divine wisdom. Interesting. So the rules of physics are just another way God's wisdom is expressed.
That's the idea. And it underscores the point that the commandments, the mitzvot, aren't arbitrary rules. They're designed to be in sync with the happiest, healthiest, most successful ways for us to live because they align with these deeper principles of how things work.
So for you listening, what does all this mean practically? How might understanding this framework actually change anything?
Well, I think it adds a layer of intentionality, doesn't it? When you approach a mitzvah, maybe after giving tzedakah, you're not just doing an isolated act. You can think of it as consciously activating a specific flow, the amperage, from that universal source, the voltage of Torah.
Making the actual deed, the wattage, way more impactful. It's like knowing how the circuit works helps you make sure the light actually turns on brightly.
Exactly. It shifts the perspective from just following rules to actively participating in this flow of divine energy.
Which leads to a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah, if this journey from possibility to reality, from potential through flow to impact, follows such a similar pattern in both ancient spiritual paths and modern electrical science.
And what other universal principles might be out there waiting for us, hiding in plain sight, and the parallels between fields we normally think are completely separate.
It's worth considering, right? How might this perspective influence your own approach? Thinking about the voltage of your own potential, the amperage of how you channel your energy and focus, and the wattage, the actual impact you want to create in your life.
Definitely something to think about. How to build your own unified currents.